subliminal messages and their basis in reality and fantasy and fiction. Doctor Who version. 500 million viewers are watching the moon landing on television. And everybody's noticed that there's a hiccup in the speech given as a specific person makes a footprint on the moon. It's a first human footprint, but it's not a human footprint because it's not a bare foot. Remember, a foot doesn't look like a footprint. It's one small step for man, and you notice there's a flub up where he seems to lose track of his thoughts and then says one giant leap for mankind, which was a mistake. It was supposed to be, this is one small step for a man, but he fucked it up. Then he kind of blundered. Now, there's a short period of time in it which is used in the TV series. A loop of a monster repeating at least 5 times, visually being seen on screen. You should kill us all on sight. The emphasis is because the creature we're looking at has an interesting story and an interesting ability. It's very imagery and speech, if it knows the language of your land, or is audible in any way. Normally it speaks telepathically, but it has a mouth it can make open. However, I have no mouth, so how may I scream? That is inserted 5 times at minimum between one small step for man and one giant leap for mankind, as 500 million people see it, and subsequent generations, almost mandatorily, will at least see it once. If it was a subliminal message you could not detect, because the very nature of it would make you forget that you saw it, but be influenced by it, these creatures could never come to the planet at all. For several reasons I'm going to bring up here. But the statement from Doctor Who, or the Doctor as he's supposed to be properly called, you've given an order for your own extinction. The whole planet just heard you. Today is the day the human race throws you off the planet. You just raised an army against yourself. You're going to be ordering them to destroy you every day. For 1,000 generations, they won't even know they're doing it. Because of your nature as being covert and subliminal and having any influence, that, any ability that's extraordinary, out of the ordinary, always becomes a double-edged sword, at least in literature. Or is it? Bulbous-headed, mouthless, normally, tall, humanoid, religious order. They have 4-fingered, IA lemur-like hands with one long flipper for a ring finger that looks like they're flipping you off if they hold up their hands. Visually based on the Men in Black and a mixture of gray aliens and the Scream character, or image, from a painting. Now, why would this be anything anyone would want to use for the basis for a sci-fi show? Well, first of all, you have to involve a bit of a regress here. What are aliens? The bulbous-headed, big-headed alien thing. Well, this is repeated throughout history and blah, blah, blah. No, what is it? It's an oversimplification of not a human head or even a primate head. It's an oversimplification of a generalized and very primordial version of how humans view a head of any 4-limbed, one-headed animal with eyes that face forward or to the side. It's true. When you visually represent most animals, they have a snout where our chin would be. We have angular heads. If you oversimplify it to a point, you end up with bug-eyed alien heads. Our head is kind of bulbous and tapers to a point. This emphasizes it. It's also the baseline you start off with when you draw from chin to back of head when tilted forward for any human head. Our eyes are down here. Eyes down here, guys. But you can put them up here, make them abnormal, that sort of thing. Also, it is worth pointing out that at various stages of many mammals developing in the womb or other creatures in eggs, anything even marginally similar to a human head or not is going to be depicted or literally be this. Yeah, it's a subliminal message. Human beings are aware, partially, of the fact that we don't look human. I mean, we have a homunculus kind of thing where we overemphasize our hands even though they're only this much surface area compared to our heads. we amplify things. The homunculus thing, I'll put a link to, is about how much more priority we give to certain senses and abilities, like visually. We use hearing to see 360 around us, and up and down, 360 by 3D. We only see a narrow range from like this. I can show you the angle this way, tilt it forward, and there's the angle. We only see stereoscopically in the middle. We don't see above a certain point because the eyebrows are below a certain point because of our cheeks or nose gets in the way. And we have blind spots. And I have visual damage near but not at the fova, which means I have a bunch of places in my eye that my brain is just filling in like a green screen that's done poorly. Becoming more and more aware of how much damage my eyes have. I hope I don't go blind before I drop dead. But I've been blind before. So where am I going with this? Let's talk. They, in the show, started off as genetically modified priests that cause any confessing penitent to forget their confessions immediately after giving them, and maybe even their sins. Also, the idea here is this is a very similar basis to the idea in some groups that if you do a confession, the person you confess to should forget it. The idea is that they act as a channel or a pipe or just a human to hear your confession so that it means more to you, so it can have an effect, and also so that they could say, you are to forget this because you're never to repeat it. You're only to advise them at the moment and go out of your way to forget it. That's actually what you're told to do in certain professional activities. Someone comes to me and says, supposedly, like a lawyer or a medical person, suppose I have this problem. I have a friend with this backache. You're supposed to forget it for number one, it may not be true, and number two, you're not supposed to remember it because you have a confidentiality implied agreement. So what if you took it to the next level and they made it to where you couldn't remember your own confession? You'd be free of your sin because you can't remember it happening. Someone could remind you. Now, what is these creatures' special ability? All monsters in sci-fi have some ability. Besides them basically sucking the life out of people and other things that isn't really discussed in the show, any place that talks about it, they talk about their special ability, not the sucking the life out of people and killing them and eating them and who knows what else. Their existence is effectively secret, not because of any agreements, but because anyone who sees them immediately forgets about them after looking away, but retains any suggestions made, even if it's only subliminal. It becomes retroactively subliminal because they have the suggestion but don't know where it came from. This is actually the idea behind brainwashing. You're aware you want to do something, but for some reason you can't remember or can't let yourself remember where it came from. This is also a real thing where people have reactions in life where they don't know why they have a habit or a preference or something they don't like. Like, I don't like peanut butter, for instance. I do, but let's say I didn't like peanut butter. It might be because I was traumatized by a peanut butter incident or something. The point of this is, it's a pretty simple one, is that all of us do and say and believe and feel and act on things, sometimes after forgetting why. Hatfield and McCoy arguments. They forgot what started the original argument and can never solve it. If you can't remember what caused a problem, you can't solve it because you're not aware where the problem came from. Same thing with solutions. If you don't know how you found out how to solve something, you might have to come up with the same solution again by accident. Forgetting isn't always good. Sometimes it's required. But anyway, they're difficult to locate and resist, but not impossible. So they end up having an inordinately pervasive influence across history, including with humans. Attempting to destroy the Doctor is one of the primary purposes, however. Originally, they started off as confessionals, genetically modified priests, confession takers. After making the Doctor continued silence on a specific subject, its primary mission, and effectively failing, or finding out they would fail, they decided to try to destroy this character called the Doctor. The show is called Doctor Who, which is a question. When the oldest question in the universe is asked, not answered, asked, silence will or must fall. And they call themselves the Silence for the fact that they originally would cause people to fall silent on them. Now they're interpreting some prophecy that's from somewhere. Now we get to the reveal. they cause their own destruction, or almost do. And they almost cause the destruction by trying to accomplish the solution to a problem that's essentially a mythological prediction. Now, you can watch the show. You can read what was the intended path of the show, story arc, blah, and what actually happened. But the idea here is that they wanted to kill this character called the Doctor in the TV show Doctor Who to make him not, quote-unquote, make sure that they would not fall when the oldest question in the universe is asked. The perception about this is pretty simple. If you're not aware of it, Doctor Who, TV show about the Doctor, who never tells you his actual name, so everybody asks him Doctor Who eventually, is a time traveler and has seen the beginning and ending of the universe, and, much like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe, has had the effect of altering it and then trying to undo some of the alterations and fix things. And just like anybody else who messes with time or messes with someone who fixes it or messes with it, the silence trying to kill him has ended up causing a bunch of problems throughout time that have to be solved in a very painstaking, clever, and sometimes spontaneous way. The solution at this point was to drive them off the earth, not kill them, by making one of them give the instruction, "You should kill us all on sight." Now, it could have been made shorter. It could have been stuck into lots and lots of media, and I would have done it a totally different way. And I would have done it in a fun way. But let's discuss the overt, covert, subliminal, and more importantly, the uncanny valley. The image you see of the character from the silence, obviously you can see it and you won't forget it. It's not really especially frightening or anything. The fear, as is noted in the Wikipedia article and everywhere else, is from what they can do. It's the capability they have. Below a certain threshold of accuracy of the image representing it, from a line drawing all the way up to literally the mask they're using, which isn't real flesh, to the uncanny valley of it being even creepier because someone's done a slightly poor job reproducing their ostensibly natural features. There would be a point below which, on quality level, you would not be able to forget what they looked like, or at least wouldn't have any trouble doing so if you wanted to remember them. The idea here is that, again, their appearance and presumably their discussions with you or voice have the effect of making you forget them. But what if you lower the quality of the video or image you're seeing, lower and lower, to where it no longer has the effect of making you forget them? Put up an image of the monster's face. Now make another image where it's black and white converted, and then half-toned, and then line art. And then underneath and above on all of them, "You should kill us all on sight." A person would see, depending on their ability to perceive, and it would be a good test, at least one blank spot, representing to them, and to anybody viewing this, the part of the image they can't see because the mere visual depiction of it makes it to where you can't see it. That would tell you what level of, or what specific narrow band, they can see the monsters accurately enough to not be able to see them consciously. All of the other versions would give them the ability to, at varying levels, remember the image and remember the instruction, "You should kill us on sight," and then also in fine print, a creature that looks like this is depicted 4 times on this sheet of paper. If there's a part of the page you can't read or see or consciously memorize, that means that's the version and the level of perception you have, and more important than that, you are able to consciously remember the other images. There may only be 1, there may be 3 or 4. If you can see all 4, you may be able to see these all the time. But three-dimensionally, viewing them might cause them to be, for you, different. Please contact this phone number if you can see any or all of these images. Obviously, a three-dimensional version wouldn't be depicted on a sheet of paper. You can make these full-page ads. You could do it like it's a goof, or put it in every publication you want. Newspapers, magazines, sci-fi magazines, UFO magazines, movies depicting aliens. Just ask people, what part of the film talked about aliens in the scene, but you only saw one or didn't see any? Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. And you should kill them on sight.